Inside your spotlight this morning, we're talking about making better choices over the holiday season. And what kind of choices? We're talking about choices for your actual body. This morning, I welcome personal trainer and fitness instructor Kerine Farmer joining us on set. Good morning, Kerine.
Hi, good morning.
How are you doing this morning?
Pretty good.
Nice to have you here this early hour of the morning. I appreciate you waking up early and joining us.
Yeah, this is early.
All right, can you share a little bit with us about your journey into the fitness world and how Suspension Belle Fitness came to life?
Well, I started just gymming like everybody else who wants to lose weight and get in shape, typical start at 19 years old. And I just basically fell in love with weight training. Before you know it, I did a certification. I did ISSA's flagship personal trainer certification with no intention of joining the industry whatsoever.
So why did you do this certification?
Because it was easy for me to do, and I had already fallen in love with the process. So I was like, I made a friend at the gym who was an instructor, and she and I became fast friends, and I just got like annoyed with having to like ask her questions all the time. So I was like, you know what, this is going to take me 3 months. I can do this, And but then fast forward to 2018, I was in the corporate world working a typical 8 to 4 job, and then I lost my job. So being a fitness enthusiast since that age, it was just a natural transition because people used to be asking me for programs all the time. I was very independent in the gym, so that's how I ended up with a career in fitness. Suspension Belle Fitness basically was when I became full-time in the industry in 2018.
So tell me about the certification. So you mentioned the one that you would have gotten back when you were now starting up and just getting frustrated with having to ask questions.
Yeah.
But how do these certifications shape the way that you do your programs?
Well, I have a bunch of tools.
Right.
But I can't use all of them, obviously. So when I get in contact with a prospect or a new client, I would assess them. And based on what their goals are, what their limitations are in terms of budget, what they could do, all of these come into my assessments. I have a questionnaire that I allow them to fill out. It gives me a lot of data. And then I use the information to basically pick which tools I'm going to use to help them.
All right, so let me talk the tools that we need to help with Christmas, because during Christmas, it's our real food is be shared, and it's little hard to maintain healthy habits around Christmas time.
Yes,
what are some of the most common challenges that you see with your clients, especially around this time of year?
Just debauchery, just all out debauchery. And I think nobody is trying to be on a diet at this time of the year. Let's be real, right?
It's a pastel, it's a ham,
correct.
Things.
And nobody's going to watch every single morsel that they eat. But there are things that you could do. You kind of lean towards a more intuitive eating mindset, where it is you're using your body to gauge when you're like
Actually
reaching
hungry.
reaching the point where you have to be like, you know what, I really should stop now. So I want to say the first tip is to eat slowly, mindfully, right? Make sure that when you are, especially where you choose to go to a party or you have get-togethers, right? You should try to eat slowly and mindfully. This allows your body to get in tune with, am I getting full?
Right.
So you want to decide, I'm not saying don't eat this, don't eat that. I'm saying you can have whatever you want, right? But don't allow yourself to reach the point where you have to unbuckle your belt.
That's fair.
And you're like ready to, go to sleep.
Should we be balancing that eating and drinking aspect of things? Because sometimes you can fool yourself into thinking that you're filled with liquid.
Correct. Here's what I would say, right? I would say there are specific, your calendar, the things that you have to attend, right? On the days where you're at home, right? Try to stick to some semblance of just what your regular normal eating looks like.
Okay.
Right? Like if you have to focus on your vegetables and your protein and whatever other healthy practices you would practice at home, I would stay away from the liquid calories once I'm not socializing, because I just feel like save the liquid calories for your events. Because you're going to drink alcohol, most of us would, right? You're going to be drinking sorrel, punch creme, all of these very high calorie things.
Right.
So when you're not at those things, try to stick to the water and the teas that have no sugar and stuff like that.
So you're saying don't drink sorrel home?
avoid it as much as you can. Like I said, it's all about making sure you minimize, because
Right.
at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to cut all of these things out, right?
Yeah.
But save the calories for the socializing. And don't go to parties hungry and starving, because that is also a tendency. There's a tendency to overeat. Like, say you have a party at, you have a party at 7, 8 o'clock or whatever.
Yeah.
And then people tend to think to themselves, well, maybe I should starve myself during
I
the
ain't gonna
day.
eat lunch because I'm going and hit them hard later.
Right. But the thing about it is when you do that, you end up eating, a lot of people don't realize, but they end up eating twice the amount of the food that they would have intended to eat if it is that they had something healthier earlier on in the day.
That's the point. They go in to hurt them.
Yeah.
They go in to make sure and eat out all the food.
You might, if it is you go there starving, you might probably eat twice the amount. But if you, you might eat 3 times the amount. But if you eat during the day, you might just only eat twice. You know what I mean?
The
It's like it's about mitigating the damage.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Okay. Tell me about some major health issues that people may face and they don't realize that it's linked to poor diet.
Anxiety and depression.
How?
Well, there's a lot of studies that show that your the things that you eat affect your gut flora, and your gut flora is linked to your brain. So a lot of people don't realize that when they eat a lot of crap all the time, the flora and fauna in your gut, there are things that affect your brain and how it operates, and they don't realize that there's a link there.
So, what are some of the things that we need to make sure that we eat to make that balance happen then?
Well, you could take probiotics, pre and probiotics. Those are really good things that you should be taking. You should be incorporating foods that have good bacteria in them. Apple cider vinegar, kefir, yogurt. There are things like that could help balance your gut flora.
Mm-hmm. All right, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
In terms of taking steps towards a healthier lifestyle, what should be the first step that we take? I mean, after we figure out the balance of not eating everything at the dinner, or not starving yourself during the day, but what are some of the steps that we should be taking to lead a
Staying
healthier
active.
life? Right.
Right? Now, around this time, people say, oh, well, I can't work out. I don't have time. I have all this stuff to do. And that's fine, because at the end of the day, you are getting steps if you're cleaning your house.
Right.
If you're running errands and doing stuff that involves you, standing up most of the time and walking around, and, those things count, right? So if you know that you're going to be doing all these things, if you used to weight train before, right, and then you decide, listen, I have so many things to do, because in my world, the hierarchy of fitness strength training is at the top. Cardio is second, mobility training, all of these things come, it's like a rank, right? So if you
which one is at the top? Weight training is at the top?
Strength training,
right?
In my opinion, is what you should be prioritizing.
Okay.
So if you are getting steps in, there's no need to be doing any kind of extra cardio, running, or anything like that.
Right.
What you should aim to do, if you used to do however many days of weight training you used to do, or resistance training, cut it down to a manageable. So if you realize, I used to go 4 days a week, I don't have time for that over the season, let me cut it down to like a half an hour twice a week for the month of December until I could make it through to January, when things tend to normalize and you would maintain.
Yeah. Tell me about the risks involved with weight training or over exercising in any case, because I've heard some trainers say that they prefer to use natural body weight if they're going to do. Some people put cardio higher, rank it higher in terms of healthiness and fitness. But you mentioned just now that strength training is at the top for you.
Yes.
Are there any risks involved with people who just say, I know people who say, I go into the gym and I go and lift all the weights and I just go and rah.
Well, okay. Strength training is a skill.
Right.
Form and alignment is important, right? So if you don't know what you're doing, it is a good idea to check in with a trainer at your gym, or to even look at videos on form or whatever, right? I'm not saying that everybody needs a personal trainer, but you can, if you are an absolute novice, right? I really wouldn't recommend just jumping into things without any kind of knowledge, right? Consult with someone who's more knowledgeable so that they could design something that could work for you and mitigate any risk of injury, because there is a much higher risk of injury, which is why it is, some trainers would say they would avoid using outer load, right? Like in the form of weights or whatever, right? So, but the thing is, even with bodyweight training, there is a risk of injury.
Of course.
Right? Because if your form is wrong, you're still going to get injured. So it's really about getting someone to guide you if you don't know. And that is how you mitigate the risk in both scenarios, in my opinion.
Right. You mentioned the differences in, like, from a novice to somebody who's more experienced, but you train people from 15 years old to as old as 80 something years old. How do you differentiate what they are doing and what benefits and what was the I guess adapting the sessions to meet the different age groups?
Well, it begins with the assessment, right? Now, I guess because I've been in this thing for so long, if I know somebody is completely untrained, I know what weaknesses usually come up in an untrained individual. It's just I just know that. Core strength in particular. Right?
Yeah.
Everybody who I've ever encountered who's untrained, their core is usually extremely weak. So any type of exercise that involves a lot of core strength, they're going to have problems there. Right? So so that's like most untrained individuals. So a lot of the times I would incorporate exercises to hit that first and then kind of progress outward to the other things. When it comes to differences in age groups, older people tend to have mobility issues, right? So it's really about strengthening their ability to move in different ranges of motion in their joints, being able to do the basic things. Because if I'm training somebody who's 80 something, it's about protecting their bone density, and it's like a whole different focus as opposed to a 15-year-old who's probably trying to increase their athletic ability and stuff like that.
You can rough up the 15-year-old a lot more than you can rough up the 80-year-old.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. Yeah. Right. Although it'll shock you. I mean, right now I'm training somebody who's almost 70 and she moves like she's in her 30s.
Nice.
So it's really an individual thing, but there are outliers. And I can adapt for the outliers.
Of course. Now, Kerine, before we go, after Christmas comes Carnival, right? And after all the gluttony and the debauchery that we're going through for Christmas, even
which we're trying to mitigate.
If we try to mitigate it, we're still eating too much, we're still drinking too much, right?
Correct.
But people often tend to want to lose that weight quick in time for Carnival. Is there a quick way to do it? No?
Not in a way that, I mean, if you're concerned about sustainability, no. If you're willing to do possibly highly risky things, which I would not recommend at all, because people do things like...
Don't tell them what it is.
They do crazy things, and I'm not about that. Right. I'm like, if you really wanted to be in shape for Carnival, you needed to have been working on this at least by October. This year.
That would have been a good time to start?
Yes. Okay. And that's provided you have a good base already.
Right.
If you don't, well, you should have been starting from last year.
From March.
Right. So it's really about where you're at. But I mean, it's a lifestyle change. Why do people look... this will boggle my mind forever when people decide they're going on some kind of challenge to get into a costume and then afterwards they go back to bad habits. I will never understand that.
Because they like to eat nice things.
No, and that's fine. That's fine. But what I'm saying is understand that all of your habits... You see, when you're young...
Metabolism must work.
Not only that, when you're young, you don't understand the importance of making sure that your body... Your body and your quality of life lasts you into your old age. All right? If you're not doing things with a long-term mindset, you're going to regret that. And I'm seeing it because I'm 47 years old. And the way my other 47-year-old friends move and you're seeing a decline in their ability to just do things like get up from a chair. That's crazy.
They said about, oh, God.
Yeah. So,
I understand.
So what I'm saying is don't look at fitness as a short-term 6-week challenge. People join challenges to lose weight quickly. It's not about what's always on the outside. It's about what's going on in your heart. A friend of mine recently had a heart attack. She's 1 year older than me. Right? For me... At this age, maybe I'm just getting old and crotchety. I don't know. But it's about making sure that I have longevity and making sure that I can move well and maintain my independence into my old age. Making sure that my bone density is... As women, we have osteoporosis. Is something that all of us need to be concerned about after menopause. Your bone density, is deteriorating by the year.
Yeah.
Who wants to fall and break their hip?
Nobody.
No one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we need to be looking at the things that are going on the inside. It's great to look nice on the outside, I wouldn't lie, right? But what's going on the inside, especially after 40 years old, is something to be, and 6 weeks challenges aren't going to address those things.
Nice. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Kerine, and I want to wish you all the best and a Merry
Thanks for
Christmas.
having me.
And no gluttony for Christmas, okay?
I'll try not to.
Try your best. Ladies and gentlemen, Kerine Farmer, personal trainer and fitness instructor, just giving us some tips how to get through the holiday season, into the carnival season as we try not to overdo it. That's the bottom line. Try not to overdo it. We take a quick break and come back with more in our morning show. Stick around.